Hi, my name is Daniel, and let's talk, right? Let's talk about stress at a workplace. So it's important, right? Today, I'm all dressed up for stress relief, right? I changed my outfit, did a different hair. I'm ready to rock and roll, right? So welcome back, our guest for this episode. We have 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀𝗀, Executive Director of the Silver Ribbon Singapore, and we have 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, CEO Kaleidoscope Labs, as well as the Champions for the Wellbeing Champions Network, right? So welcome back. I see you have changed as well. Oh, nice outfit. Ready to exercise. And well, stress it's from the last episode. We've been hearing that stress is very common. It's in our daily lives. It is part of our being. But for me, I don't even know what stress looks like for me. I can't identify it. So today, would you help me to decipher this little thing called stress? And how would I know if I'm at the tipping point to going into some form of distress?
So the thing is, like, first of all, the definition of stress. The thing is, like, everybody have different definition of stress, and as what I said during the earlier episode, some people don't even know that they are stressed out. Yeah, and the thing is, like, so is stress a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah.
I think it's good to talk about that.
Yes.
That means, like, yes, it could be good and bad as well. Good meaning because of stress, we are able to not complete our tasks on time. We are able to meet the deadline.
Yeah.
You see, so it might not be absolutely bad. So when it comes to bad, is when we continue to experience stress without addressing it. Then
Right,
it becomes
right.
bad.
Yeah.
So that's why we need to address this instead of like assuming that stress is always bad, but it motivates us, it pushes us to achieve our goal, meet our deadlines.
Yeah, so no stress
we
makes
talk about
me
that.
lazy,
Yeah,
right?
there are some people who come forward and say that, hey, Porsche, I'm not doing anything, but I still feel very stressed out. So there are some people who are, so it depends on like what is the reason behind the
Right.
stress, and we have to address it. And you're talking about how to recognize like the stress and everything, right? We also talk about there's too many people say, oh, I'm stressed out. Next moment they say I'm burnout. And there are some people who tell me that I don't even know how to identify the difference between stress out and burnout. So now you're stressed out or burnout. Tell me. So the thing is, like, when it comes to stress, is that you will get really involved, very engaging, and you will get very anxious. When you're feeling stressed, it's like you experience anxiety. You have to meet the deadline. You have to rush for this, rush for that. So you experience anxiety. Then what is burnout? According to World Health Organization, the definition of burnout is when stress is not well managed at workplace.
Yeah. Workplace. Important.
Yeah. So it becomes burnout. And when do you know burnout? So if you have a curve, right? So stress is when you start feeling the pinch. You get very in Singlish, it's kanchong. You rush everything and everything. You get very excited. You're very engaged. You rush for your meeting and everything. Engage. So when it comes to burnout, it's like when you continue to experience stress without managing it well, and you start feeling depressed instead of being anxious. Depressed, and you start disengaging.
That's right.
So for stress is engage. You can't attending meeting. Disengagement is when you burn out. You don't even feel like attending any meeting or discussion, and you disconnect yourself from everything and stop attending all these gathering meetings. And that's the point when employers start seeing employees taking MC, medical leave, reporting sick, and delay in submitting the projects or work.
Yeah, so that's the tipping point, right?
Yes. It's good for everyone to be able to look out when they are burnout. Yes, stress, and they think it's a norm. It's a norm to be stressed out, but we need to address it, and we fail to address it. That's a tendency for us to develop mental disorder.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what kind of stress are there? I mean, I understand there is stress, which is not too bad, the stress. I understand that there's stress that's not so good. I mean, I don't know. I just want to ask because you're the experts. So
I mean, in fact, Daniel and Joe,
Yeah.
you realize that there are also myths about stress.
yes,
There's
tell
some
us.
people who say that, children, how could they be feeling stressed? They're so young, they're not working yet. But we do have a lot of youths coming forward and say, I'm very stressed out because of studies, because of peer pressure, because of expectation from parents.
Right.
So, the study stress. So there are a lot of stress. Or there are some people who say, elderly wouldn't be stressed out, right? They have retired. But the thing is, they have different type of stress as well.
Right.
Maybe due to loneliness. They might have a big family, but not many people or family members are talking to them, and they are feeling lonely, and they feel stressed out because they are lonely.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful when our friends start coming forward and say that I'm very stressed out, instead of stereotyping or based on their age, or you're so well educated, you should be happy, you're earning a lot, you shouldn't be stressed out. So we got to start clearing the myth before we
Yes.
address all this issue.
Yes. So I like to send a message
Yeah.
to my friends, right? If I tell you I'm stressed, I'm really stressed, okay? So please take me seriously, because I remember a time, oh, thank you for that. I remember a time I was telling my friends, I said, look, I mean, I got no one to talk to about my issues, whether it's at home or at work, because I'm highly stressed out, right? I'm the only child taking care of my loved ones. I've been doing it for the last 16 years. And sometimes I talk to the mirror. I mean, all of us talk to the mirror, because every morning you tell the mirror, you look good, right, before we step out of the house. But suddenly one day, right, my mirror reflection kind of talked to me, right? And I was like, oh no, I'm feeling it. That's not too good, right? And what I was afraid was my mirror, my impression of my mirror walked away. So that would be distress. So I when I went around telling people I'm stressed at work, or when I tell them my peers, I say I'm stressed in your companionship because all of you are chasing dreams. I'm just changing diapers. Yeah. So that kind of situation, when I went through that period of time, I think it was the darkest days in terms of managing stress. I was exactly what you say, right? I was not sleeping well. I was binge eating. I wasn't having good appetite. And I was having adverse thoughts of harming my loved ones and myself. And I couldn't go about dealing my activities on a daily basis. So basically, I wasn't dear to myself. And I felt that, hey, nobody understood me. I mean, I wouldn't go around to the office and telling my peers that I'm not feeling so good today. And I think work is putting me under pressure. I didn't know how to do that, but I was very young. So you rightly call out a very soft spot of mine when you say the young ones are feeling the stress. But the young ones are about to ready to not only just come out from school, but they're going out into the workforce. And that's where you should be thriving, right? And not getting burned out and stressed out because of what you need to do. So I'm very interested in the workplace level, right? Because we always want to bring it back to the workplace in saying, how do these people, or how do the younger ones in the workforce today, when they experience stress, where do they go? What do they do? I think that's important, right? Where do they go? What do they do? Tell us.
I mean, I would like to add on is that especially those fresh grad, while they're still schooling, they're well supported by their school counselors and teachers.
Right.
But once they have completed their studies, they have no counselors to turn to.
Right, they're on their own.
Yeah, they're stranded, and they are like entering a new chapter of their life,
Into the workforce,
Yeah,
right?
the workforce, and with a lot of uncertainty.
That's right.
So they are left stranded there. So sometimes they will say, where to go? Sometimes they turn to SOS, but not everybody, are comfortable to speak up about their challenges,
Right.
like what we talked during the previous episode about the stigma to talk and the fear of judgment.
Yeah.
So it's never easy, and they'll struggle. So where do they share? Sometimes they share at their social media. So it's really nice, really kind of the community to look out and check in with, your friends, people around, in case you come across some weird messages that you come across. Instead of shaming them or sharing them, it's good to check in with them and just check in with them. Hey, are you okay? How are you coping? Rather than, I heard that you're having depression. How is your depression? Don't go directly. Rather than just say, how are you? Are you okay? And in fact, we always talk about it's okay to be not okay.
Right.
But how to encourage them to speak out is very important.
Right. Yeah. So the communication piece is important.
I think fantastic points. For a number of years, I served on this thing called the Youth Mental Wellbeing Network, which is the precursor to the SG Mental Wellbeing Network.
Right.
I was involved there for 3-4 years, actively in participating in a number of ground-up initiatives there.
Right.
And one of the things that we looked at then is the absence of support structures in organizations for new graduates, new joiners to the industry, to the workforce, right? And the gap was that, as what Porsche actually rightly mentioned, is they feel supported while they were in school, but once they enter into the workforce, suddenly that organization may not have invested into these kinds of things. So it's like, wow, there's an absence of these support structures in the workplace, right? If you turn it back on its link then back to the organization, it affects their recruitment policy. right? How effectively are they able to recruit new employees, right? Who are younger in the workforce, right? So it's a driver. Then they need to address it, right? That's where, remember, we talked about how we link employee well-being to organization performance drivers. That's a driver, right? It affects employee engagement and talent attraction and recruitment and retention.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned the I Work Health.
Exactly, right? And
assessment.
Exactly, right? So we cover a number of things. We talk about response to stress. I just remember the 3 Fs, right? Fight, flight, or freeze, right? Fight, flight, or freeze, right? Our typical response is one of these 3, or probably a combination of these 3 things. But what I wanted to say here is that I think it's important to understand the responsibilities, right, of this, right? In our Wellbeing First Responder program that we run, offer as part of the Wellbeing Champions Network, which we designed from the ground up to meet the competency requirements of the National Mental Health and Wellbeing Competency Training Framework.
Right.
In Tier 1, there are 4 modules, and one of the modules talks about understanding the basics of self-care. And one of the messages that we bring across there is that actually all of us have a personal responsibility to maintain and upkeep our self-care. So it's not just about looking out for organization, providing channels or activities or things that support that, but we all have our own individual responsibilities in self-care, in managing those stresses. So I think that should never leave that conversation, that personal responsibility there. And then how that is managed then is really depending on the needs and the interests of the individual. So
I hear you, but I also hear the audience, right? Because after our first episode, we have a lot of feedback, right? Saying that, Dan, can you give us more practical tips? That's why today I'm dressed down to do this, right? I want to know if I'm really stressed right now doing this show, how can you help me de-stress in a couple of minutes? Because we want quick tips and tricks. Because I'm at office 8 hours a day. If I feel stressed right now, I need to either, some people tell me to breathe slower and all that stuff. I don't know, right? So I'm seeking my experts here to tell me a little bit or share with me what can I do to quickly.
I think with the breathing piece,
tell me.
It's then linked to.
I get a chance to sleep on the show,
right? It's linked to regulating of your emotions, right? Regulating of your emotions, right? Calming down. Let's apply it in context in a workplace environment. And I was just sharing this with someone, I think this morning actually, I was having a conversation with someone. How does this look like in a workplace? So let's say, for example, you've just had a very, very difficult conversation with your boss, right? And this boss that you had maybe gave you a pretty harsh critique of your work performance, let's say, right? And that affected you emotionally, right? You felt like, you thought that you did okay, but obviously your boss doesn't think so.
You just took my proposal and crushed it.
Yeah, you crushed it, right? Guess what? So after you leave the meeting room, you realize that, let's say maybe you said, maybe you should go outside and take a walk. Or maybe you should, I don't know, go to one corner and take a nap for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and all that, right? There's different things that you can do. But let's say the context is, immediately after you leave the room, actually within the next hour, you have to give a very, very important presentation to other stakeholders in the organization. So now, after coming off from that performance review, you are now in red zone. You need to shift back into a green or more neutral, calm zone so that you will be able to give this presentation to this group of people.
How do I do that?
How do you do that? So that's how we could talk about regulating those emotions. How do you calm yourself down, right? So breathing is one example. I mean, there are different techniques there. I mean, we're not going to go through the techniques here, of course. But there are different box breathing and guided breathing techniques. There's also mindfulness. I mean, we hear these words a lot.
Stress reduction-based mindfulness program.
But, it's very, very important that the start point is being able to name that emotion.
Right.
Because if you want to tame it, you have to be able to first name it. You need to identify that it is a stress, or you're feeling angry. Are we able to acknowledge that you feel angry after that performance review? Or do you feel like completely disappointed? Disappointment is an emotion, right? So the ability to name those emotions and be very, very clear and identifying what that emotion is would then begin to open up the possibilities in addressing that emotional driver.
Right. Yeah, so I also want to hear it from Porsche, right? I mean, I'm hyperventilating most of the time. I have little anxiety toys in my pocket. You can't see it, but I have it, okay? And sometimes you just get stressed out, right? What kind of quick fix can I do?
You're referring to quick fix.
Yeah.
I mean, on top of all the briefing technique, of course we address like time out, right? The thing is like cut down on like consumption of caffeine.
Right.
In case
I
you
have too
get
many
really,
coffees,
anxious every now and then.
Right.
And there are a lot more, of course, you can Google. But back to, because we talk about stress earlier on, right? But stress, then we need to ensure self-care. But how about the perception of self-care? There are some people who come forward and say, Porsche, you asked me to take care, self-care. Isn't it selfish? You're telling me, I'm very stressed out, then I should have like apply for leave or time out or something like that. Then you'll be selfish on me, right? So I'm trying to remind everyone, self-care is never selfish. You got to take good care of yourself in order to perform or to take care of other people around you.
Yeah.
So this is very important
Right.
because like many people will say that, are you sure you want to talk about self-care? It's so selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad when I'm taking leave and my colleagues have to cover my
That's right.
duty.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to start adjusting the mindset about this, because if you are too stressed out, you won't be able to concentrate. Therefore, it will affect your work performance. And in the end, you create more work for your colleagues or your friends or whoever.
Yeah.
So it's never easy. And when you talk about how to address the issue, it's very subjective again.
Yep.
What type of stress are you facing?
Yeah,
And could,
exactly what it is.
sometimes when people say that it's stress, we shouldn't just like immediately draw the conclusion or jump into conclusion that, because of your work, right, that's why you're stressed out.
Yeah,
Because
precisely.
there are some people who are also facing personal struggle at home.
Yeah.
They might have like some family issue, financial issue, and that's why they are stressed out. So you got to like, first of all, if you come to me and if you have the role play, so Daniel, you're telling me you're stressed out, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think, the source of your stress? Let's do a role play. Let's
Right,
try.
let's do a
try.
spontaneous
Okay,
role play, right?
let's
So-
do it.
So
Yeah.
I'm a caregiver. I'm a caregiver for my loved ones
I
for the last
see.
16 years.
I
So I
see.
cared for daddy who was living with dementia and
I
mommy
see.
with cancer and frailty. Mommy is still around, but daddy has left us this year. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
a lot of
not
my stress,
easy.
right? So sometimes
Yeah.
where I don't feel that I'm listened to or I'm
Okay.
heard, that causes a lot of my stress, because what happens is my employers, right? Employers, I'm not shaming you, but if you hear this, because I take my own leave and I go to the spa, I go enjoy my time at the beach, I go for a swim. I like to take pictures of myself, although I'm oddly shaped.
Okay.
But I take that to care for myself and I post my pictures and all that stuff. And then the next day I go back to work. People are like, oh, you took that one day care leave to go and do what? Go to the spa. And then I get dirty looks, you know what I mean? It's like, that one day leave is for you to go and care for something, right? Like take your loved ones to the clinic or to whatever space. But yeah, I told them, I said, is it wrong if I take my own leave to go recharge my own battery until it's 100% so that tomorrow at 9 o'clock I'm fighting fit for you? So my HR kind of like, okay, then, Yeah, but I still feel that a lot of people think that it's not right to care for ourselves, and the guilt that surrounds it is very real. So self-care, to care for myself, I felt that, exactly what you said, right? I'm taking my job and putting on to someone else. And someone else has to bear that burden, and then watching me YouTube myself in the beach, that doesn't go down well in any workplace context, right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
I get shamed for that. Yeah.
So then you're telling me that you're a caregiver to both your parents, and then you're facing all this issue with, your colleagues at your workplace. Is there anything else besides this too?
Deep rooted, I think, is because nobody understands the journey of being a caregiver.
How is your social circle?
I
Are
got
you
zero
talking-
social life because I don't have the capacity and the time to meet new people or to maintain my social relationships.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we say that at this moment you are having 3 challenges with a limited social circle and having the need to take care of your parents, and on top of that, the reaction of your colleagues? So which affect you the most at this moment?
I think it's because of that isolation I feel. Like I got nobody to talk to.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, you are facing isolation, or you do not have time to catch up with your friends because you have to take care of your parents. Have you ever thought of getting help, some help to support your parents?
Right. I'm
Have you
thinking
ever
of it,
thought of
but the
that?
financial piece is the challenge.
No worries about that, because I'm not sure you heard about like Agency for Integrated Care.
All the funding
and there's a whole
pieces, yeah.
list of government agency and a lot of grant available,
Right.
so that you don't have to struggle alone,
Right.
and it can help you to release some of your
Yeah,
burden.
that kind
You
of
can
put
consider
me
that,
a little bit
right?
of
So there are some
ease,
resources
right?
available.
Yeah.
And how about financially? Are you doing well?
That depends
Yeah.
on my boss, right?
Yeah. For example, the government has
Right.
some grant as well. You can approach the nearby social service agency
Yeah.
to help and everything. So for that one is being addressed.
Right.
And with that support to address your parents or whoever, do you think you might have some spare time, to widen your social circle?
Maybe that would help.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would
So-
want to go and try
So
that.
that's the first point. So
Yeah.
you can identify the first issue to address, which is within your control.
Right.
Yeah, and take note that help is always available, and there's a whole list of resources.
Understand.
Right?
Okay, so we put a pause
Yeah.
on the role play. We just want to come back to the podcast,
Correct.
right? What I'm hearing is that
Yeah.
actually, if we opened up and start sharing about what really we are concerned about,
Mm-hmm.
and then perhaps solutioning may not be the final objective,
Mm-hmm.
but pointing us to certain directions where help could happen
Yeah.
would be useful.
Yeah.
And finally, I think the idea of acknowledging that I can get out of my own mess.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that felt liberating for me, and that felt that I was empowered to come out of my own.
Yeah. And your willingness to speak up.
yeah.
This is very
Yeah.
important.
I think I would also like to add that it's not just about showing you the signs that you are able to kind of get out of this of a spiral.
Yeah.
Is that you are not alone
Ah,
in the spiral.
that's-
There are other people who are going through
I mean, there are other
maybe a
people who are going
similar,
worse times.
maybe
Yeah.
worse, maybe but you're not alone in that, right?
Right.
You know, you
Right. I
don't walk
acknowledge
alone
that.
in that
Yeah.
sense. I would also then discover what current coping strategies that you currently have.
Yeah.
It may be some things that you used to do before you found yourself fulfilling your caregiver responsibility. It's something that you could have done before this burden fell on your lap. You know, maybe you like to take long walks, or maybe you have some creative pursuits or something. Maybe you have to put all of that aside in order to pursue, to fulfill your caregiving responsibility. I'll come back and say, is there a possibility that you could explore those things that you used to like to do, right? And really discover, say, what are you doing now? And maybe plant the seed of possibility that maybe if you start small, maybe you could go back to those things that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. While we're talking about addressing stress, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be workplace stress. I mean, it could be anything. It could be
Yeah.
because of this kind of stress
Yeah.
too. As caregiving
Because if
stress.
I'm not well at work, or
Yeah.
if I'm not well at
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
how can
Yeah.
I be well at
right.
work?
And
Yeah.
and the discussion on the self-care part, what are the possibilities that we could explore now? Maybe something that you used to do or something new that you might want to do. What's interesting is that actually, if you start people to start thinking critically about this, like, oh, maybe I could do this now, right? It starts actually anchoring this thing and this word called hope. Right?
Okay, we
It's
got a big word.
It's the one escape route out of a downward spiral, that you anchor something on hope, that you're not always forever caught in this downward loop, that there is an escape out through hope.
Yeah.
And this hope could come in many ways. It could come through a refocus of attention towards the needs of the self. And it's definitely not selfish.
I hear you. I'm writing down the magic word hope. Yeah. At this point, I also received feedback from our previous episode that maybe we kind of took a little bit too long, right? 30 minutes is a little bit too long for our episode. But today, I hear you, folks. I hear your feedback. We're going to cut this simple and short. I hope and I wish that you will continue to watch these episodes, because this is Let's Talk, finding out a little bit more about stress management. One final word for our viewers out there. Come on.
I think really, as I mentioned, I'll come back. So it's a bi-directional relationship. Organizations can do something in uplifting the well-being of their employees, and they can do that through various well-being workshops, or whether it's mindfulness, or whether it's mental fitness workshop. We have one called Mental Fitness Workshop, which is very focused on a sensory approach, very different, right? Helping you ground yourself through emotional regulation, through tactile, even feeling the ridges of your fingers, for example, just to ground you, to move you out of the red zone. And they could call us to run those things for them. But more importantly, to really put the emphasis that we all have a personal responsibility to take care of our needs. Right?
We all have a personal responsibility to take care of our
own
needs.
But it's important then to recognize that, okay, you are now in a red zone, that you do need to address it, because failure to address it is what Porsche said. You don't want to move from stress to distress.
Okay, from stress to distress. Final words, Porsche.
I mean, for me, you used the word cope. I said communication is very important. So for employees, it's really hard for your boss to read your mind, to know that you're stressed out. If you keep quiet and you struggle alone, nobody will know. And for employers, it's also hard for your employees to read your mind, saying that they are supposed to do their work well, or submit their work on time. You have to be very clear with your instruction. I mean, communication is very important. So I believe communication will be able to enhance the working relationship, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Right. I'd agree
Yeah.
with all of you, but I've got one hope and one hope only, right? That as you report for your profits, as you report for the planet, you will start reporting for your people, right? So organizations, please take note. And this is us signing off on Let's Talk Stress Management. See you soon.
Bye.